Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever in the world you are. Tonight, we'd like to discuss CCC's response to the recent delimitation report that was submitted to the president and was tabled in Parliament as well. As part and parcel of the process of preparing for the elections. And tonight, to help me discuss this, I've got Tawanda. Tawanda, can you greet the listeners?
Good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Hope I find you well.
And I've got another Zimbabwean who is passionate about Zimbabwe too, Benjamin.
Thank you. Hello, viewers. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, thanks very much, gentlemen. Let's just go straight to the article itself by CCC. Let me just show you the article. This was a presser. This is the position on the delimitation report. So CCC had a press conference where they presented their reaction to the delimitation. And they presented 5 points there. The number one is give us the voters' roll. Number two, there shouldn't be a 20% variation in registered voters between any given constituency. 3, too few urban constituencies, too many rural versus registered voters in each. And 4, gross under-registration of voters, blitz required. Number 5, reform delimitation process. Gentlemen, what is your reaction to that? Can we start with you, Tawanda?
Well, I just think of, their first point, it's when they do their delimitation actually report, it's actually gonna, I hope it will come in with the voters' roll attached to it, that this is the number of votes, the estimated number of voters expected in each constituency, whatever the case might be. The other thing is, like, I thought they were initially, when I saw the initial report, the social media was buzzing, was saying, Zanu PF is panicking because of the report, and they think they're gonna lose to CCC and everything. I don't know why. What's the change of the mind now? All of a sudden, from being in their favor, and all of a sudden is not in their favor, something like that. Because it's like there's no point of, if you're gonna win, you don't win in the urban areas only. You need to win both sides, the rural and the urban as well. They have to do their actually maths right and actually start mobilizing their actually voters. And they said they are aiming for 6 million votes for the president. So you can't have 6 million votes in the urban only. We have to include the rural area as well. So they have to do a lot of mobilization from now until the date of the election. And Zanu PF is saying we are aiming for 5 million. Already they are 1 million above. So they shouldn't be panicking as such. They should just for the voters' roll, I will go with them. Okay, it's fine. You need to go for the voters' roll, but considering the urban and the rural, the number-wise will be a bit tricky to add plus or minus 20%, because in the urban areas you find there are so many people in the same, like you can find so many voters in one household, which is an advantage compared to the rural. When I've got my rural home, it's only me and my family. It's a different ballgame altogether. So I don't know. I don't understand why there is the big issue. But about the voters' roll, then it's fine to ask for that. But I was assuming that when they did that, they were also putting there also voters saying that in this constituency we are expecting like 14,000 voters. In the next one we are expecting 14,500 voters, whatever it is, so that at least each party knows the number of votes they are actually going to get in each constituency based on the numbers. So they should have tabled the report with the voters' roll attached to it. I don't know whether it was attached or not. That is where the dilemma is.
Well, from the comment there, it's clearly Triple C are saying they haven't seen the voters' roll. But Benjamin, what's your reaction?
Oh, thank you. Well, I don't agree with what Triple C is saying. Whatever they've said there is just part of the problem. It's not the whole problem. They're just touching based on part of the problem, which is to reform the process. The whole process from start to finish, from before election. It's pointless to just talk of part of a problem when the rot is so big. We need to reform the whole electoral process. Look at it this way: you are hearing of stories where people are failing to register to vote. This is not the first time. We are hearing during elections where people's names are not in the constituencies that they're supposed to be. The whole process is not transparent. You cannot trace it. I think it's very shallow to say let's reform the delimitation process when the problem is bigger than that. We really need to. They really need to change their focus. That's all I can say.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I think personally, what I find interesting about this reaction from Triple C is that they're asking for the voters' roll. That is a tacit acknowledgement, like what you were saying there, Benji, that the voters' roll is already. I mean, we've had so many reports saying that the voters' roll is not a clean one. And if you're going to have a delimitation process based on a voters' roll that you don't even know what it looks like, the whole process becomes meaningless. You know, what's the point of saying we've come up with a delimited and divided the number of voters as per the 210 constituencies when we don't know who are on the voters' roll? So the voters' roll is fundamental. To go on to do the elimination when you don't have a clean voters' roll is like building a house without a foundation. You know, that house is never going to stand. There's no point discussing the details of the house, the design, the roof, and so forth. How many floors and so forth. If you don't have the foundation, that house will never stand. So why is it that we are going to step 2 when we have not done the voters' roll? That to me is the tragedy of the whole system, and the fact that the main opposition party in this particular case are willing to discuss the delimitation itself when they acknowledge that they haven't seen the voters' roll. The voters' roll is not clean. We have had so many reports. I don't know whether you gentlemen have ever heard, but as far as I know, Zimbabwe, in its 43 years now of independence, has never produced a verified voters' roll.
Yes, that's very true. I mean, we can go back a couple of years back when everybody was required to go and register from start. But then when we finished registering, you still found out the day when you go and cast your vote, the names of the dead are still there. So why bother? Why did we have to start the whole process of re-registering when we are still going to put back the people that long passed before? It's there is no traceability of that voters roll. That's why probably I don't know how they come up with it. And like you were saying, how do you go about an exercise when you don't know what the exercise is for? You know, it's so flawed. And unfortunately, the CCC members that are entrusted to be watching over this process are not willing to see the whole picture. They want to see part of the picture, which doesn't solve the problem.
I wonder, have you ever heard of the verified voters roll being produced in Zimbabwe?
No, there is no voters roll ever produced. What if, like what you are saying? If I tell you now, I've been in diaspora for more than 20 years, and I tell you now, up to now, my name is still on the voters roll. Can you imagine that? So, because where I register to vote, my name is still there. So this is one of the things I said. How can you? I've never renewed that name. I've never done anything about it. It's like I've disappeared in thin air. Whether I was dead or I'm alive, nobody knows exactly where I am. But my name still appears. And to make matters worse, it doesn't appear on one constituent. It appears in Harare, and it appears back in Masvingo, is where I come from. You know, it's so I cast 2 votes in Harare and in Masvingo. You know what I mean? So it makes the whole.
This problem of the voters roll actually is important, because remember in 1995, when Margaret Dongo challenged the results of those elections, she had stood in Harare South, and because she had been previously Zanu PF, she had people within the system that she could rely on. And so she was able to produce affidavits that showed that people, because that year when you voted, they actually crossed your name on the voters' roll. So this time when she challenged the results, the voters' roll was examined. And Tobayamde was then the registrar, quickly acknowledged that there were serious mistakes, and the whole thing was to rerun it. But what it showed was some of the names that had been crossed were actually people who had died 5 years or more. And that means those people had voted. From the grave. So I wonder here, you may be surprised that if they were still crossing names, you have been voting.
Don't make me laugh.
Both in Harare and Masvingo, all the time. When you were not, you were here in UK.
Yeah, because what I find, I think the biggest problem with me, I still say, okay, the guys in Triple C, they didn't get into politics to change people's lives, but they get into politics to make it as a profession. That is where the difference is. This is where the problem. They are fighting for their jobs. It's like when you're fighting for your job, when you get suspended, you have to fight for your job, so that even if you leave that place, you've got a clean name. Then you can apply for the next company. This is what they are actually trying to do. Basically, that is why, my colleague is saying, why are you bringing a partial thing? Why don't we deal with the root? Really, if we deal with the root, then whatever is on top above the ground, we will deal with it after we deal with the root. But the problem is, we are not dealing with the root. So this cycle is gonna go on and on until we deal with the root. At the end of the day, this is how I feel that we have to deal with the root code, whatever. Like the issue of the voters' roll. By now, they should have. We are already in 2023. They should have a copy. They should have their own people giving them somehow managing to get the voters roll one way or the other. You know what I mean? Whether the ZEC gives you or they don't give you, whatever it is. Why can't you try to get it yourself and say, no, 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 this is not right. I've got a copy of voters roll. How I got it, it doesn't matter. But there is some problem here. At the end of the day, then they will actually react to it. They know they will not get that, and at the end of the day,
I think that brings us to the other important point here. Triple C have made those 5 demands, and it is clear that Zanu PF will ignore them. And what is worse, Triple C themselves will ignore those demands. They will go on to these elections in 2023
yes,
without a verified voters roll. How can I say that with confidence? Because they've done it in the past. In the past, they participated in these elections, knowing fully well there's no verified voters roll. So some of these demands, they are making them now. It's almost like academic. They're trying to appease their base, try to give them the impression that they are still winning these elections, when in reality they know they are not winning them. Because you cannot possibly go into an election without something as fundamental as the voters roll. So this is what is so annoying, so disappointing about this. Triple C are deliberately misleading people here. They are making these demands, going to this press conference and making all these demands. We want a verified voters roll and so forth, knowing fully well that Zanu PF will ignore them, because Zanu PF also know Triple C will participate anyway, even if they don't get a verified voters roll. I think this is what is so disappointing, in my view, about our friends in the opposition.
yeah, I think the best, they should have done their research. They are quick to go to Twitter. They are quick to go to call the press conference without really verifying issues and whatever. Go Facebook and whatever it is like. It's just like this is other issue which was in the press that Mazibabe Shanduko one day wants to be chucked away from his rural home. Then there's an article today in the newspaper that the chief is saying The only case, I've only met him once. There is a case which is between him and another man, the dispute over land. That is the only case I know with him. The rest, which all this thing which you guys goes in the newspaper, because Mahere had to go on the Twitter saying he wants to be chucked away from his rural area. This is the problem of Triple C. They have to investigate some of these things. Better delay and give the people proper information when you know exactly what's going on. If you hear something, investigate and give us the proper report. If you want they knew that there is the elimination actually thing. They should have said, okay, give us the voters roll now while you are doing your delimitation. Then they've got the voters roll in one hand, then the report in the other hand. Then they will say they will compare the two of them, but they didn't even demand for the voters roll.
But on that point, I wonder, my answer to that one will be that even if they demanded it, they will never get it, because the voters' roll is part and parcel of Zanu PF. It's vote rigging. Zanu PF needs to rig the elections to stay in power. That point cannot be denied. The only opportunity for Triple C to really, or then MDC, to really force Zanu PF to reform was during the GNU. And they lost that opportunity because they took their eyes off the ball. You know, and in 5 years, they failed to implement even one meaningful reform. And Zanu PF was grateful for that. And from there on, they knew the Triple C would participate in these elections, regardless how flawed the process is. The only trick here that people should not miss is that Triple C are giving the impression that they are winning these elections because they've got now some of these winning in rigged election strategies. I mean, one of the strategies, their probably flagship strategy, has been to tell people that they must register in millions. In this press statement that we've just been looking at, they are also acknowledging that the new registered voters is very small. The number is not what the millions that they were expecting. So already their flagship strategy has failed.
Yes.
And this issue of saying, oh, we must have a blitz voter registration is totally meaningless. In fact, if anything at all, the only blitz that we have seen in voter registration has been on Zanu PF's part. We have seen on the internet Zanu PF busing in their supporters to register. In this case, you start with, you get their ID, and then you get your ID, and then you register. Even in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I mean,
in these days of power cuts by candlelight.
Yes. I mean, it's very true. I've seen, you know, on the internet where some people do not even have IDs, but they claim they are registered. How do you do that? You know, it's unfortunate, like we were saying, regardless of the evidence that is so much out there for Triple C to see that this process that they are saying they will win, it's so flawed. It's absolute. I don't know how they. It's only that they are. I believe it's because of greed, firstly, and that is they need to get some, you know, like financial gain from all this. I mean, they don't have any other way of making money as an organization except to get from participating in these elections. So it's just mind blowing to actually see that it's not even five points that they need to be talking about. It should have been maybe a good book or something. It's the whole process is just completely all wrong. So I fail to understand why they are even trying to do and come up with some of these schemes that they talk about. It's quite unfortunate.
It is. Gentlemen, would you like to give your closing remarks, Tawanda? Then we'll.
I think if I was really in the CCC, I would stop being the president or the spokesperson of CCC in the Twitter and whatever it is, and be on the ground and start doing some work and encourage your supporters to register. You might have so many thousands coming to your rallies, but if they are not registered, it doesn't really count. Those are not votes. You might have 20,000, then I have 10,000, but my 10,000 are registered and your 20,000, only 5 are registered. Then I will emerge the winner at the end of the day because my 10,000 are registered voters. So at the end of the day, they need to be on the ground and encourage their encourage their supporters to really register to vote.
Well, my immediate reaction to that, Tawanda, will be that as long as you have got ZEC, you can encourage your supporters to register. ZEC has been known to raise the bar. Like, for instance, in the during this period since 2018 to now, in the urban centers, for instance, there was one point where there were only 2 voter registration centers in the whole of Harare. The whole of Harare, 2 of them. Can you imagine? I mean, a big town like that. How can you have only 2? You know, and yet if you go to the rural areas, which are considered Zanu PF strongholds,
It's every house.
Every household is
Yes, they got their own. You can register yourself.
you know. So this is, I think, the whole point is, we really, if I was to advise CCC or the opposition in general, let's implement the democratic reforms. Make sure that ZEC, the police, the army, all these state institutions cut their links with Zanu PF. Stop the influence of Zanu PF in those democratic institutions so that they can now do their work. ZEC is not rocket science to produce a verified voter roll. You register people, you make it available for everyone to inspect it so that it can be corrected, errors and so forth can be corrected. People like yourself, Tawanda, you can if your relative, for instance, sees that you are still in the voters roll, they can say, oh, this guy here has been in the diaspora for the last 20 years. He shouldn't be in the voters roll. And they can then try to find out, is that true? You know, and you yourself will write to you, like they will do here in UK. They will write to you at your last address to confirm that you are still there. If you fail to confirm, they will take you off the voters roll. You know, a clean voters roll is part and parcel of free, fair, and credible elections. There's no point in pretending that we can have free, fair, and credible elections when you don't even have something as basic as a verified voters roll. And you would like to give your closing remarks?
Oh, thank you very much. So for me, I would like to just tell the people of Zimbabwe that I honestly don't think that just these 5 points are exactly what we need. We need more. Like we need the whole democratic reform. This is what we need. And unfortunately, the way Triple C is going about it, I don't think Triple C is our solution. They're actually now turning to be a problem because we are now banking on somebody that is not dependable, that is not trustworthy themselves. So I
Thank
honestly
you.
think we must really.
Thank you very much. I think the whole lot, they are all rotten. Let's just kick them out.
Yes, I honestly think that too. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your participation, and good night and goodbye to all the listeners.
Good
Okay.
night.
Good night.